Good morning, students. I hope everyone is safe. So, today we will learn the subject biology and something new from the biology subject. So, introduction. You can see this picture, and we all know that is all living organisms require energy to carry out the various life processes, right? So the energy that is stored in the body in the form of complex organic compounds, like we can say glycogen, it is however not usable by the organism unless it is converted into usable form, that is complex to simple form. This conversion is achieved through the process of respiration. We all know this is the process of respiration, and everyone knows the definition of respiration too. What is cellular respiration? That is we learned already in the previous classes. So we know glucose, that is C6H12O6 plus O2, oxidation takes place of glucose, then it is converted into the simple form, that is ATP is generated, which is the simplest form of complex food material. So on that basis today we will learn the chapter number 8, respiration and circulation, in this class. So stay tuned with me. Respiration and circulation. So what is the definition of respiration? It is a biochemical process of oxidation of organic compounds in an orderly manner for the liberation of chemical energy in the form of ATP. ATP, it is the simplest form where tissue can get ATP. ATP is the nothing but the energy to our body. So this is C6H12O6 glucose, which is the simplest form of any food material. If we consider carbohydrate, if we consume carbohydrate, it is converted into the glucose form at last. So glucose is the simple food. So if oxidation of glucose takes place, we will get 38 ATP. You can see this reaction. Now the second part from this chapter is gaseous exchange in plants. But before that, I would like to explain a little point, that is organs of respiratory exchange. So what are the organs for the respiration in the plants as well as in the animals? So respiratory exchange is a simple physical process, we all know. But for the efficient gaseous exchange, uh, the surface of respiratory should have the following features, like it should have a large surface area, it should be thin, highly vascular and permeable to allow exchange of gases. What is vascular? Vascular is full of blood capillaries, we can say. And it should be moist, it's a little wet condition. So the next is gaseous exchange in plant. How gaseous exchange in plants takes place? The shape and structure in plant facilitate gaseous exchange by simply diffusion. In the plants, we see in the diagram, this is the stomata, where water, vapors and oxygen exist through the stomata. Stomata are nothing but the tiny pores in a plant tissue that open and close to enable gas exchange. They help with photosynthesis and hydration. A terrestrial flowering plants. Remember, a terrestrial flowering plant has many air spaces between the cells of stem, leaf and root. These air spaces are continuous. Oxygen diffuses into the air space through stomata. I have already told you. Stomata, which are helpful in the gaseous exchange, from where the water vapors and oxygens are exit. Then woody flowering plants like trees and shrubs. Shrubs mean little plants have an external impervious bark. Here gaseous exchange occurs through small pores in the stem surface called lenticels. On the bark of little shrubs or trees, we can see little pores are there, which is called lenticels. Remember this, it can be asked for 1 mark, that is for the MCQ question. So this is the gaseous exchange in plants. I already learned this. Now the respiration in animals. How respiration takes place in the animals? So let's see. As compared to plants, animals show wide variety of respiratory surfaces or organs. The respiratory surfaces differ in various animals. In animals, depending upon the complexity of organization and the surrounding medium, certain parts of the body have become specialized into different type of respiratory organs. In the higher animals, like we can say, these respiratory organs are also associated with a transport system. So this is the chart. You can see organisms, its habitat and respiratory surface. So if you consider protists, sponges and coelenterate, they are the aquatic. We know the habitat of these animals is aquatic. Then respiratory surface is plasma membrane. Then second is annelids. Annelids like earthworm. Then we can say amphibians. Amphibians is frog, which is aquatic or semi-aquatic, because we know amphibians live on the land as well as on the water also. So the respiratory surface is plasma membrane and moist skin. Through plasma membrane respiration takes place, and in the amphibians we can say frog. Frog's skin of frog is very moist. From the skin they respire when they are on the land. Then the fish is aquatic. The habitat of fish is aquatic, we all know. The internal gills are present in the fish. Internal gills, which is the organ of respiration in the fishes. Then the reptiles, birds and mammals. We are terrestrial, that is we live on the land, and we respire through the lungs. Reptiles also, birds also respire through the lungs. Then turtles. They live under water, that is habitat of it. Turtles is underwater, and they have the specialized organ cloaca. From cloaca they respire. So this is the respiration in animals. Now the next important point is human respiratory system. In the human, how human respiration takes place? Let me show one video. Look at carefully.
During normal breathing, the air you inhale passes unobstructed down your trachea. This sturdy tube is held open by rows of C-shaped bands of cartilage. The open end of each C faces the esophagus, allowing the esophagus to open during swallowing. Air flowing down the trachea passes over cilia, epithelial cells with tiny hairs that wave about 20 times per second. These sweep more particles out of the air and trap them in a layer of sticky mucus that coats the trachea's walls. Cigarette smoke can paralyze these cilia, allowing these damaging particles to enter the lungs. Particles are propelled back upward by the cilia until they reach the esophagus. Then they are swallowed and disposed of by the digestive system. Meanwhile, air that has been cleaned, warmed, and moistened continues down the trachea. Soon, the trachea divides into two smaller tubes. the bronchi. These tubes enter the lungs, then divide again and again until they are microscopic in size. Some of these are called bronchioles. Air travels along the bronchioles until they end in grape-like clusters of air sacs, the alveoli. These clusters make up the inner surface of your lungs. You have about 300 million alveoli in your lungs. Their combined surface area is about 70 square meters, some 600 square feet. Why such a large surface area? To gather enough oxygen from the air you breathe to supply the needs of all the trillions of cells in your body.
So, what you understand from the video? A human respiratory system which is divided into two parts, that is upper respiratory system and lower respiratory system. The upper respiratory system having external layers, nasal cavities, nasopharynx, nose, throat and associated structures, where the lower respiratory system consists of larynx, trachea, bronchi and bronchioles and lungs. So, see in this diagram, we take air inside our body through the nose, right? It gets passed from the nasal cavity to the throat, then to the larynx. Larynx, it is a common part for food and air. Then it goes to the trachea. Then it goes to the trachea is divided into two parts, that is bronchioles or bronchi. It is divided into two parts, that is bronchioles, and then bronchioles opens into the alveoli. There are 300 plus alveoli in our lungs. So let's start with one by one. From the human respiratory system. Human respiratory system consists of upper respiratory system as well as lower respiratory system, in which first is nose. Nose, we know it has pair of slit-like openings and which is called nostrils for the entry of air into the nasal cavity. The lungs is divided into right and left nasal chambers by mesenteroid cartilage. Remember this word, mesenteroid cartilage. It can be asked for 1 mark for the MCQs or 1 mark question. Then each nasal chamber is further divided into 3 regions. First is vestibule, respiratory part and olfactory or sensory chamber. What is vestibule? Vestibule is a proximal part about the nostrils. The skin has hair for filtering the air and trapping the dust and suspended particles in the inhaled air. Whatever the air we inhaled, it has many dust particles. Then some we can say suspended particles also there. So they are trapped with the help of vestibule, where the cilia like structure you can say or hairs are present in the vestibule. So the second is respiratory part, which is nothing but the conditioner of the air. The middle thin walled highly vascular part for warming and moistening the inhaled air. What happened in the respiratory part? The air we inhaled, it get moist and also warming of air also takes place in that part. Then the next is olfactory or sensory chamber. In the olfactory or sensory chamber, the uppermost lined by olfactory epithelium for detection the smell. In the olfactory or sensory chamber, the smell is detected. Understood? So next part of the respiratory system is pharynx. Pharynx, it is again divided into 3 parts. The nasopharynx is the uppermost part from the nasal chamber, which is leads into oropharynx, which is the common passage for food and air. And this is continuous below as the laryngopharynx, between the nasopharynx and oropharynx. And also the pharynx has a set of lymphoid organs called tonsils. We all heard about tonsils, which is the set of lymphoid organs in our pharynx region. Then next, the larynx. It is called voice box. It contains vocal cords for producing sound, and it extends from the nasopharynx and the hyoid bone to the trachea. Hyoid bone to the trachea. The larynx extends the laryngopharynx and the hyoid bone to the trachea. It is a hollow tubular structure, and the wall is made up of cartilage plate, which is held by membranes and muscles. Internally, the larynx is lined by a pair of folds of elastic vocal cords, which is true vocal cords. The voice is produced by passage of air between the vocal cords and modulations created by tongues, teeth, lips and nasal cavity. Remember this, how voice is produced. The larynx opens into the laryngopharynx through a slit-like opening called glottis. This opening of the trachea is nothing but the windpipe, which is guarded by a leaf-like flap called the epiglottis. What is the function of epiglottis? You can see in the diagram. This is the hyoid bone, epiglottis. Then thyroid cartilage we can see. Laryngeal muscles also we are seeing. Windpipe is nothing but the trachea, and the epiglottis. Function of epiglottis is it prevents the entry of food into the trachea. We see in the pharynx is the common passage for food and water, right? So food, air, water we can say. But how only air can pass into the larynx? Do you think ever? So there is a flap-like structure, leaf-like flap is present called epiglottis, which prevents the entry of food into the trachea. Remember this. So it's very important. If this flap is not present, the food can be entered into our lungs too, and immediately death can occur to that person. So it is the important part of our respiratory system. So next is trachea. Trachea is also called as windpipe, and it is long tube 10 to 20 centimeter in length. It is supported by C-shaped 16 to 20 rings of cartilage. That's why it is called as the C-shaped pipe also. So which prevents the collapse of trachea. What is the role of that C-shaped cartilage? It prevents the collapse of trachea. So we all know the trachea is a windpipe from where the air is passes to the lung. It is lined internally with the ciliated pseudostratified epithelium and mucous glands that trap the unwanted particles, preventing their entry into the lungs. It is a ciliated structure which is prevent the entry of unwanted particles to the lungs. Then next is the bronchi. bronchi, the trachea divides into right and left primary bronchi as it reaches the middle of the thoracic cavity, and the bronchi are supported internally by C-shaped incomplete rings of cartilage. Incomplete rings. The primary bronchi divides to form secondary and tertiary bronchi, which leads into the terminal bronchioles extending into alveoli. So remember, trachea is divides into right and left primary bronchi, and primary it is again divided into secondary, then tertiary, which is extend towards the alveoli. Alveoli it is present at the lungs. Then the next part is lungs of our respiratory system, which is the important part, we can say. These are the main respiratory organ of humans, right? Which is enclosed by 3 membranes. What are they? Each lung is enclosed and protected by a double pleural membrane, outer parietal and inner visceral membrane. Between the two pleura is a pleural cavity filled with a lubricating fluid called pleural fluid, which is secreted by the membranes. And the right lung is larger and divided into 3 lobes, while the left lung is smaller and it is divided into 2 lobes only. Each lobe of the lung has the terminal bronchioles ending in a bunch of air sacs. Air sacs are present over there, and each with 10 to 12 alveoli. The next part is alveoli. What are the alveoli? These are the thin-walled lobulated structures. Lobulated means lobe-like structures are there. So it is like a bunch of grapes, we can say. We all seen the bunch of grapes. The alveoli looks like the bunch of grapes. It is surrounded by a network of capillaries of arteries and veins. Arteries, which arteries? Pulmonary arteries and pulmonary veins, which is in the circulation. We will see in the next class what is pulmonary arteries and veins. Then the next part of respiratory system is diaphragm. It is also the important part. It is a muscular septum. Septum means we can say any structure which separates 2 parts, that separates the thoracic and abdominal cavity. It is a dome shape. It can be asked for 1 mark. It is a dome shaped, and on contraction it becomes flattened. So it is nothing but the septum which separates the thoracic and abdominal cavity. So these are the parts of the respiratory system. Now the next is mechanism of respiration. How respiration takes place, actual process we will learn in this mechanism of respiration. So first is breathing. How breathing takes place. Then in which we will see external respiration. Then third is mechanism is internal respiration, and the fourth is cellular respiration. So first, breathing. Breathing is the physical process which gaseous exchange takes place between the atmosphere and the lungs. Alright, it involves inspiration and expiration. What is inspiration, expiration? We will see in the further part. So the inspiration. During the inspiration, the atmosphere air is taken into the lungs. It occurs due to the pressure gradient formed between the lungs and the atmosphere. It is an active process in which the diaphragm becomes flat and goes downwards. In the breathing, the role of diaphragm is mostly important. because when the diaphragm it goes down, the lungs are relaxed in conditions, so breathing is takes place at that moment. And the intercostal muscles, which are the external, which contracts, so the ribs and sternum move upward and outward. You can see in these diagrams. Inhalation, inhalation, or we can say inspiration, where the diaphragm is get down and it becomes flattened, and the exhalation, where diaphragm relaxes, which is move upward, and that condition the air exhaled, air is passed from the body. And when we inhaled the air, the diaphragm contracts and it is moved down, that condition it get flattened. So the rib cage, which that time expands as rib muscles contracts. This is the important part. This is nothing but the relationship. You can see when we air inhaled in our body, the rib cage expands and the rib muscle contracts, while the when we air exhaled outside, the rib cage gets smaller as a rib muscle get relaxed. This is the interdependent. Next is expiration. Expiration is during expiration the thorax contracts, causing air to be exhaled. The diaphragm relaxes and is pushed upward, and it is come in a dome shape. It becomes the dome shape, right? So the intercostal muscles also relax, pulling the ribcage inwards and downwards, which I already explained. When we air inhaled, the rib cage expands and the rib muscles are in the contract condition, while where we exhaled, while we exhale the air, the rib cage gets smaller and the rib muscle relax. This is the exhalation. So exhalation, or you can say expiration. One inspiration and one expiration is one breath. Remember this, one inspiration and one expiration together form a one breath. Now the next is external respiration, or exchange of gases at the alveolar level. It is intimately associated with a dense network of capillaries. If we see the diagram, we can see the alveoli. Alveoli is surrounded by the dense network of capillaries. The capillaries, that is the blood capillaries, are present very intimately contacted to the alveoli. So when the gases exchange between alveoli and capillaries takes place, so how it is takes place, you can see in this diagram. From the pulmonary artery, the deoxygenated bloods enter, right? So it closely passed from the alveolar sac. You can see in the diagram. Then alveolar membranes, respiratory membranes, surfactant fluid, which is also present. So how O2 and CO2 transferred? The partial pressure of O2 into the lungs is higher, and the CO2 partial pressure of CO2 is lower. So what happens? The oxygen diffuses into the red blood cells fastly, while the carbon dioxide is diffuses very slowly because of partial pressure of the carbon dioxide and the oxygen. The alveolus consist of layer of simple squamous epithelium resting on a basement membrane. It is intimately associated with a dense network of capillaries. What is the role of capillaries? The capillaries wall is also made up of a simple squamous epithelium resting on a thin basement membrane. Both the layers have similar structure and are thin walled. and the diffusion of gases will take place from an area of higher partial pressure to an area of lower partial pressure until the partial pressure in the two regions reaches equilibrium. Understood? The partial pressure of carbon dioxide of blood entering the pulmonary capillaries is 45 mmHg. Remember this. The partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 45 mmHg while the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in alveolar sac is 40 mmHg. Due to this difference, the carbon dioxide diffuses from the capillaries into the alveolus. The partial pressure inside the alveolus is higher than the partial pressure into the capillaries. So what happens? We all know the gradient level. The partial pressure where the lower the pressure, the higher pressure is goes towards the lower pressure. So what happen in that condition? It diffuses into the alveolar because the pressure in the alveolus is lower than the capillaries. Similarly, the partial pressure of oxygen of blood in pulmonary capillaries is 40 mmHg while in alveolar blood it is 104 mmHg. How different it is? Due to this difference, oxygen diffuses from the alveoli to the capillaries. Why the oxygen diffuses from the alveoli to the capillaries? It is because of the partial pressure. Same for the carbon dioxide also. So I hope everyone understand how the gaseous exchange at the alveolar level takes place with the help of this diagram. How oxygen diffuses and why oxygen and carbon dioxide diffuses in the alveolar and the capillaries. I hope everyone understood. So shall we move? Now the next is there are some volumes and the lung capacities which we should remember. So lung volumes. Tidal volume. Tidal volume, it is the volume of air inspired or expired during normal breathing. It is the volume of air inspired or expired during the normal breathing. In the normal breathing, how much air we exhaled or inhaled? It is the 500 ml of air we inhaled or exhaled in the normal breathing, in one breathing. So it is the tidal volume. Then next is the inspiratory reserve volume. What is inspiratory reserve volume? The maximum volume of air or the extra volume of air that is inspired during forced breathing. In addition to tidal volume, its value is, you can see its value is 200 to 2000 to 3000 ml. What is inspiratory reserve volume? The maximum volume. When we force breathe, the additional tidal volume is the nothing but inspiratory reserve volume. And the expiratory reserve volume, third is, it is opposite to the inspiratory volume. The maximum volume of the air that is expired during forced breathing after normal expiration, its value is 1000 to 1100 ml. Then next is a dead space. The short form is DS. Remember that short forms, they are important. You can write short form also, and the question can be asked for the 3 marks for this pulmonary volumes and the capacities, which are the normal values of lung capacities and lung volumes. Question can be asked in the exam for the 1 mark. We can say for the definition, what is tidal volume, what is inspiratory volume. So remember this. Then also short forms, remember the short forms of the volumes, that is tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume. Then the next is dead space. Dead space. The short form is DS. The volume of air that is present in the respiratory tract from nose to terminal bronchioles, but not involved in the gaseous exchange, it is 150 ml. How it is? 150 ml. The dead space is the volume of air that is present in the respiratory tract but not involved in the gaseous exchange, which is called dead space. Then next is the residual volume. What is residual volume? It is, we can write RV, that is capital RV. The volume of air that remains in the lungs and the dead space even after maximum expiration. See, the volume of air that remains in the lungs and the dead space even after the maximum expiration. If we maximum expiration we can carry out, then there is some volume of air is remained into the lungs, which is called the residual volume. It is about 1100 to 1200 ml. See, that much air is reserved in the lungs at any condition, at higher or you can say maximum expiration. Then the lung capacities. What are the lung capacities? The total lung capacity and the vital capacity. What is total lung capacity? The total lung capacity is the maximum amount of air that the lungs can hold after a maximum forceful inspiration. The maximum amount of air that the lungs can hold after a maximum forceful inspiration. Inspiration means inhale the air. It is about 5200 to 5800 ml. So total lung capacity is 5200 to 5800 ml. And the total capacity. What is total capacity? It is the maximum amount of air that can be breathed out after a maximum inspiration. It is the sum total of tidal volume, then inspiratory reserve volume and the expiratory reserve volume. It is the sum total of tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume and the expiratory reserve volume. So if we add this volume, so we will get the 4100 ml to 4600 ml of total lung capacity. So these are the lung volumes and the lungs capacities. So while studying such diagrammatic explanation, we should be careful and also whenever necessary draw the diagrams of alveoli as well as the larynx. That will helpful in the examination. So what we learned today? So today we will learn the human respiratory system and the mechanism of respiratory system, in which we see the two parts, that is first and second, that is breathing and external respiration. The remaining part, that is internal respiration and cellular, we will see in the next chapter. I hope everyone understood. So shall we stop? Thank you.